First contact combat. Varnak-IV was a humid hell of tangled roots, blood-colored moss, and the ever-present buzz of death. Joint patrols were common now, human and alien forces thrown together against the insectoid Kakuri, whose chittering swarms seemed endless. Today's patrol had started like any other, standard route, mixed-species squad, routine banter. But nothing ever stayed routine on Varnak-IV. Lieutenant Grell of the Varnathi Republic, tall, angular, and clad in iridescent armor, strode stiffly beside the humans, his eyes tracking the dense underbrush. His species thrived on hierarchy. Rank was law. Orders were sacred. That's why the human medic baffled him. "Explain again," Grell asked, turning to Sergeant Miller, why the others deferred to him. Miller chuckled as she nodded toward the man crouched ahead, scanning the ground. "That's Doc Ramirez. He's not just a medic, he's the document. Everyone listens when he talks. You will too, soon enough. But he holds no command rank. He is auxiliary support." Miller smirked. "Sure, until the bullets fly." Up ahead, Ramirez rose silently and motioned for the squad to halt. A subtle gesture, fingers flicked, 2 taps on his thigh. Instantly, the squad dropped low. No questions, no hesitation. Even Grell found himself mimicking the movement before he realized. Then it happened. The Kakari struck without warning, burrowing up from beneath the soil in a wave of razor limbs and shrieking mandibles. Plasma bolts lit the sky. Explosions sent foliage raining down. The squad's left flank vanished in a spray of gore as the first dozen troopers were ripped apart. "Ambush! Back!" Miller tried to shout, but her voice was cut short by a jagged spike piercing her chest. She collapsed, gurgling, dead before she hit the ground. Lieutenant Grell froze, overwhelmed. His translator filled with overlapping screams, some human, some Varnathi, all panicked. The chain of command had just been decapitated. Protocol dictated retreat, regrouping, reinforcements. But who would give the order? A voice cut through the chaos, not shrill, not frantic, but sharp. "Controlled. Get to cover. Left ridge. Move. Malik, lay suppressing fire. Thorn, get that launcher up." It was the medic. Ramirez sprinted across the battlefield, dragging a wounded Varnathi to safety with one hand while firing his sidearm with the other. He wasn't waiting for orders, he was giving them. And the squad obeyed. Grell ducked behind a log as plasma zipped overhead. He peered out to see Ramirez directing survivors like a conductor in the middle of a hurricane. 2 humans and 3 Varnathi regrouped under his guidance. They fell into a defensive crescent around a downed dropship hull, their fire coordinated, their breathing steadying. Ramirez knelt beside a dying trooper, human, and applied a trauma patch with swift precision. "You're not dying today, Pete," he muttered, slapping the man's cheek lightly. "Stay with me." Then, back on his feet, Ramirez shouted, "Grell, I need you laying fire at 10 o'clock. You got that fancy rifle. Use it." Grell blinked. No rank, no command. And yet, he rose, sighted the direction, and fired. For the next 5 minutes, Doc Ramirez became the center of the squad's gravity. He pulled the broken pieces together, firing, patching wounds, giving orders, pointing directions with blooded gloves. Even the Varnathi followed him without question. Finally, the Kakari retreated into the mist, leaving behind dozens of their own dead. Silence fell. Ramirez stood amid the wreckage, breathing heavy, blood on his arms, none of it his. Grell approached slowly. "That was efficient. But you overstepped. There was no official command designation." Ramirez looked up, eyes tired but clear. "Didn't need one. But, protocol." "Your protocol's dead in a ditch, Lieutenant," Doc said flatly. "I didn't step up to lead. I stepped in to keep us breathing." Grell didn't reply. The truth hung in the air, undeniable. The alien had just seen something he couldn't categorize, something that shattered his understanding of command, rank, and authority. Doc Ramirez holstered his pistol and walked off to help another wounded soldier. No salute, no titles, just purpose. For the first time, Grell felt something unfamiliar twist in his gut. respect, field triage, and field tactics. The forest around them simmered with unease. The Kakari had retreated, but no one believed it was over. The surviving soldiers, 8 in total, were blooded, exhausted, and badly shaken. Doc Ramirez was already working. He knelt beside a wounded Varnathi soldier whose exoskeletal plate had been sheared open by shrapnel. Ramirez ignored the alien's sharp clicking groans and reached for his medkit, fingers moving with muscle memory. He didn't need translation. Pain was universal. Lieutenant Grell watched silently from a distance, his rifle slack in his hands. Ramirez had just finished saving a human's life minutes ago. Now he was saving one of Grell's own kind, with the same precision, the same urgency. He stepped forward. "You are not trained in Varnathi physiology." "I read the field manual," Ramirez said, not looking up. "Turns out your arteries don't like shrapnel either." The alien blinked, unsure whether to be insulted or impressed. As Ramirez sealed the wound with a compound foam, he turned toward the other survivors. "Everyone, circle up. We're not out of this yet." The group gathered around. No one questioned why the medic was leading. They simply followed. Ramirez pointed at a jagged rise to their west. "That ridge is defensible. We set up there, use the drop crate remains to fortify, and get comms up. I want eyes on tree lines and flanks watched in shifts." "Got it." "Yes, Doc," a human replied. The Varnathi, including Grell, nodded slowly. Still, Grell's brow furrowed. "I do not understand. By what authority do you assume command?" Ramirez stood up, finally facing him. "Authority? I don't have it. I have responsibility. That's heavier." He looked around the group, injured, terrified, disoriented. "I've seen what happens when people wait for orders that'll never come. People die. Fast. I don't need stripes on my arm to keep these people alive. If that's a problem, feel free to take over." Grell hesitated. He opened his mouth, then closed it. No words came. He glanced at the squad again. They weren't just following Ramirez, they trusted him. He hadn't barked commands from a distance. He'd bled, hauled, stitched, and shot beside them. That kind of leadership didn't need insignias. With a slow breath, Grell stepped back. "Proceed. Document." They spent the next hour moving to the ridge. Ramirez organized teams with brutal efficiency. 2 to scout the perimeter, 1 to gather salvage for barricades, another to dig shallow cover positions. He patched wounds as they went, issued rations, even refitted alien weapons for injured humans. By nightfall, they had a crude but defensible outpost. Fires were out. Ammo was stacked. Fields of fire were mapped. Every move was calculated, deliberate, and fast. As stars blinked overhead and insects chirped in the trees, Grell found himself seated beside Ramirez, who was stitching his own forearm without so much as a grimace. "You are not always military," Grell observed. Ramirez smiled thinly. "Nope. Trauma surgeon. Doctors without borders. Earth's messes, not space ones." Grell tilted his head. "Then why volunteer for interstellar deployment?" Ramirez paused his stitching. "Because when I realized how many worlds needed help, I knew sitting home wasn't enough. I didn't come to fight, Grell. I came to keep people breathing. And yet, you fight. When I have to." Grell considered that in silence. He'd spent a lifetime believing rank was the key to order, that only officers should give direction, that warriors obeyed, and order followed. Ramirez was different. His authority came from motion, not position. It challenged everything Grell had ever been taught. Suddenly, a soft chirp broke the night silence. One of the perimeter sensors Ramirez had rigged up from Kakari scrap. Movement. Southeast. Ramirez was already on his feet. "Get ready." Grell stood too, checking his charge cell. "What's the plan?" Ramirez's voice was low and firm. "We lure them in. Let them think we're broken. Then we teach them why medics aren't off limits." The others rallied to his side, weapons ready. Grell looked around and realized something. They weren't just following Ramirez now. The trap is sprung. The forest was unnervingly quiet. Too quiet. Doc Ramirez crouched behind a jagged hunk of metal plating scavenged from the down drop crate. He peered through the gaps between foliage, eyes sharp, every nerve on edge. Around him, his makeshift squad was ready, calm, silent, waiting for his signal. "Hold," he whispered into the short-range comlink. "Wait for them to cross the markers." 50 meters downhill, the jungle shifted. Shapes, large, angular, and disturbingly fast, moved through the mist. Kakari scouts. Their multi-limb forms clicked and hissed as they scouted the ridge. The bait had worked. Dog's team had left a false trail. Disturbed doubt, smeared blood, broken gear. The illusion of panic. But this time, panic was a weapon. On Ramirez's signal, a series of small, improvised explosives detonated in sequence. Nothing huge, just noise and flashbang. The goal wasn't damage. It was confusion. "Now!" Ramirez shouted. Plasma fire erupted from both flanks. Grell led one squad, his long-barreled rifle spitting blue fire into the shadows. Ramirez led the other, moving between firing positions like a phantom. He didn't hesitate. He didn't freeze. He adapted on the fly, adjusting the plan as the Kakari poured in. "They are splitting left," someone yelled. "Let them," Ramirez snapped back. "Corral them to the funnel point. Thorn, take your team. Cut off the rear." Grell heard it too. The command. Clear, confident, instinctively correct. No rank behind it. No signature from an officer's terminal. And yet, everyone followed, including him. The Kakari never saw it coming. By the time they realized they were being herded, it was too late. A small ravine split the ridge's flank, easy to fall into, hard to escape. Ramirez had planted the bulk of the explosives there. When the creatures surged forward to pursue the retreating humans, they triggered the final trap. A roar shook the trees as fire and earth burst upward. Limbs flew. Screeches echoed. The swarm broke, scattered, and began to retreat in disarray. The defenders didn't pursue. That had never been the plan. "Let them go," Ramirez said, lowering his weapon. "Save the ammo. Let them tell their friends what happened here." For several seconds, no one moved. Then shoes rose, ragged, exhausted, but real. The kind of victory sound that didn't come from winning by luck, but from surviving together. Grell stepped toward Ramirez, lowering his rifle. "Your tactics were effective." Ramirez wiped sweat and blood from his brow. "Thanks, Lieutenant. I have never seen command function like this. You adapted without formal chain. No coded communication. No command line access." "I had something better," Ramirez replied, voice low. "Trust." Grell considered the word. In Varnathi culture, trust was extended up the chain, not laterally. Soldiers didn't trust medics to make battlefield decisions. But hey, Ramirez had been the spine of their survival. The alien finally nodded. "We have a saying, the blade follows the hilt, never the reverse. But you are the reverse." Ramirez chuckled. "I'm not here to be a blade. I'm here to stop the bleeding. Command just sort of happens when it needs to." A scream interrupted them. One of the alien soldiers, a younger Varnathi, collapsed. Acid burns across his side from a glancing Kakari strike. Without a word, Ramirez dropped beside him. He barked instructions to Grell, who immediately knelt to assist. For the next 3 minutes, the field medic worked, guiding Grell through the procedure as though they'd trained together for years. They hadn't, but Ramirez didn't lead from ego. He led from need. When the wounded soldier stabilized, Ramirez slumped back against the crate, breathing heavily. Grell sat beside him in silence. "You could have let someone else lead," Grell said finally. "You did not need to expose yourself. You are not trained for this." "I'm trained to keep people alive," Ramirez said. "And when the people who are trained for this are gone, someone has to step up. Not because they want to, because they can." Grell nodded slowly. "Then you are not just a medic." "No," Ramirez agreed. "I'm document, aftermath, and a new respect." The morning sun cut through the jungle mist in pale, golden shafts. Smoke curled from spent explosives and smoldering roots. The battlefield eerily quiet except for the buzz of insects returning to their disrupted habitat. Doc Ramirez sat on an overturned ration crate, sipping from a battered canteen. His uniform was torn, boots caked in mud, and a dark bruise ballooned along his ribs. He hadn't slept in 20 hours, but everyone else had made it out alive. And that was enough. Aloha signaled the approach of reinforcements. Varnathi dropships, sleek and violet, descending through the canopy with mechanical grace. Dust scattered as they touched down near the survivors' makeshift ridge fort. Lieutenant Grell stood at attention, his weapon holstered and armor cleaned. But his posture had changed, no longer rigid with protocol, but grounded in something new, something human. As the ramp dropped, a Varnathi senior commander stepped forward, flanked by aides. His ceremonial armor glimmered, untouched by battle. His gaze swept over the ragged survivors before landing on Grell. "We received your transmission," the commander said. "Report." Grell cleared his throat. "Karkari ambush. Commanding officers killed in the first wave. Unit splintered, but survivors regrouped under field leadership." "Field leadership," the commander repeated, puzzled. "From whom?" Grell hesitated, then gestured to the man still seated with his canteen. "Combat Medic First Class Ramirez." The commander stared. "A medic led your unit." Ramirez looked up and gave a casual nod. "Hey." The Varnathi commander's face twisted in disbelief. With no authority, no clearance codes, no. With no choice, Grell interrupted firmly. He acted while others panicked, organized defenses, led successful countertactics, saved wounded of both species. We survived because of him. The alien commander blinked. He was not trained for command. "No," Grell replied, "but he commanded nonetheless." A pause settled like fog. The survivors, human and Varnathi alike, watched quietly. None objected. Finally, the commander stepped forward. He faced Ramirez and extended a metallic insignia, Varnathi military commendation, typically reserved for officers. "This is not regulation," he said tightly, "but you have earned more than our rules allow. I present to you the title of Field Commander Emeritus, honorary, symbolic, but respected." Ramirez stood slowly, took the medal, and looked at it as if unsure what to do with it. "Appreciate it," he said, "but I'm just document. Always will be." Grell allowed himself a rare smile. "Then you are Doc, who outranks most of us in every way that matters." The survivors boarded the dropship soon after. Inside, tired bodies slumped into seats, relieved and finally safe. As they lifted off, Grell sat beside Ramirez. "You humans are chaotic," he said thoughtfully. "But in that chaos, there is a strength. No command structure, no protocols, just instinct and purpose." "It's not chaos," Ramirez said. "It's flexibility. Rank helps, but it's not sacred. When people are dying, you don't wait for permission to act." Grell nodded. "We were taught to obey, but perhaps we must learn when to lead, too." The jungle disappeared beneath them. Victory had not been clean, but it had been earned. Later, back at the Varnathi base, Ramirez was debriefed, patched up, and offered a formal promotion by human command. He declined. "I'm not an officer," he told the brass. "I'm a medic. I'm needed more where the bleeding starts than where the orders come from." Word spread quickly. Among human ranks, Doc Ramirez became a legend, not for heroics, but for something far rarer, selfless command. Among Varnathi forces, his name was spoken with a strange reverence. In field briefings and survival drills, recruits were reminded of the day a medic, without rank, without command, held a unit together when the galaxy expected collapse. They even adopted a new phrase in their military doctrine. Command is not given. It is taken by those who stand when others fall. And in every mention, the legend carried a name. Not general, not captain, just Doc.